All right, super excited. Hello, everybody on LinkedIn and Instagram, YouTube. Misha Saffron here, the joyful and resilient leadership trainer and coach. I'm super excited that I have another opportunity to shine the light on some other experts in the area. And today we're talking about rest as radical success. And I'm going to move that thing out of our way so we can actually enjoy. I think I'm going to move that thing out of our way. See, I'm still learning how to use this thing. Remove. Okay, it's gone. Yay. All right, here we go. If anybody gets dizzy from technology, what are they called? GAFUs. This is the wrong place to be watching. Hope you go find another show that does you better. Anyways, I am excited to have some wonderful people here for the topic of rest as radical success, redefining productivity through joy and renewal. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just ask each person on our panel to introduce themselves, say your name, the name of your business, and what drew you to this topic. So, who would like to go first?
Well, nobody else is speaking up, so I'll jump in.
Terrific. I'm going to put your QR code and just show people. It's up here on my top left side here. So if you want to connect with Marjorie, Marjorie, come right in.
Oh, thank you. You approached me about, or we talked about it, and I said, okay, yep, I have some things to say. Rest is something that's probably, I have thought a lot about this. I have spent much of my life considered to be disabled with serious illness, and rest is a necessary part of functioning. It's not an option. For me, it's how you get through the day. And so I build rest into every day. When I look at things on my to do list, I immediately start saying, that doesn't add up. What can I put aside? It forces all of us, I think, to prioritize whether we think we need it or not. I feel like having rest in my life is a major blessing because some people just keep going and going and going until their body stops them.
Yeah.
My body stopped me a long time ago because of this serious illness that I have, which includes mobility challenges. And it's a non-negotiable. So
Yeah.
I see people that have heart attacks. Well, that's a really terrible way to learn that you've got to rest. Um,
Absolutely. And what's the name of your business, Marjorie? So everybody
my
knows
my
where.
business Marjorie Turner LLC, and it's self publishing support services.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you. I'm glad you mentioned the whole like the wall and the need to stop, right? And so that was the topic that's true to you because of the disability. And I too have had a disability for a very long time. And there's a story out there for someone who had lupus around the spoon theory. And so learning how many spoons you have in the day, which is 12. And so if it takes you 3 to brush your teeth, make your breakfast, brush your hair, and all that, you only have 9 spoons left. How are you going to distribute them throughout the day? So thank you for reminding our audience around the criticalness of rest as far as your body hitting up against a wall. Who wants to come in next? Thank you, Marjorie. It's a battle. All right, I'm going to just pick you. OJ,
I
come
can,
in.
yeah, I can go. I can go. Thank you so much. All right, Misha, great to be with you. I am OJ Simmons, leadership coach, speaker, and founder of E9 Leadership Development. And I help broken leadership cultures heal. And a lot of my leadership perspective and solutions come from my time in the military as a leader in the world's greatest Navy. 27 years. Who y'all go Navy. And it's really where I learned to build and lead high performing teams when the stakes were highest, right? And so I am excited about this conversation here today because I think it's one that today's leaders need to speak more about and talk more about as it relates to rest. Rest as a radical success. It matters because rest is more than merely just time off. And from a leader's perspective, we need to remember that. It's how leaders refuel trust, rebuild safety, and protect performance. And so, if leaders reframe the way they think about rest, particularly in, in environments where I came from, where it was go, 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 and rest may be viewed as weakness. No, it's not that. It's actually strategic for peak performance. So I'm happy to be here. I'm excited about the topic. Let's go. Let's go, team, go.
Thank you, OJ, and thank you for your service and bringing
Oh,
that in.
thank
And
you.
yeah, I
Thank
think
you.
it's really critical to remind people that rest is a strategy. I often talk about how people refer to empathy, emotional intelligence as soft skills. No, they are strong skills. They are strategic skills, and rest really needs to be in the same category. So appreciate you bringing that in. Thank you. All right, Megan, come on in.
Yeah, hi, totally agree. Uh, so my brand is called Fuck the Hustle. So I'm on board with this 100%. And just to follow on with what OJ just said, rest is so much more than just time off. And I think a lot of people, when they take time off, they don't actually rest. And that's an interesting whole topic that we could get into. I just created a YouTube video very recently where I was talking about rest not being lazy. Rest is actually a leadership strategy. And so how do we create the the conditions, really the safety that we need, not just first to lead ourselves through that ability to rest, and then to model it for our teams. And like Marjorie too, what Marjorie just said about some people just keep going and going and going until I hit a wall. I burned out more than once. I did not learn the lesson the first time. And so I think this conversation is really, really important. And if I can tell my story enough times to help other people keep from burning out in that way, then yeah, then it's totally worth it. Every time we can have this conversation and more people can learn from it, I just, yeah, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Megan. I'm so excited about this. So I want to say two things to what I just heard. One, I believe each and every person needs to take the time to define what rest is for them. Because you say you're going to rest and then you do something else because you haven't really defined what does rest really mean and look like for you. And then two, this idea, and I love it, Megan, that we're going to share our golden nuggets to support people to not make the same mistakes. And the sad truth is, everybody's got to make their mistakes. So you get to choose as a viewer, as a listener, as a somebody who's going to read the transcript, you get to choose, maybe that's a mistake I need to make. Or maybe I'm going to take what I hear and change the way I do things so that I don't end up that way. But that's your choice. You get to decide. We can't protect you beyond this audio and video. So wonderful. Super excited. So I'm going to just say real quickly, I know Marjorie because we are in the Innovation Women Speaker Friends together. I know OJ because we spoke at Disrupt in El Paso, Texas together. Not together, but at the same time. Well, we didn't talk at the same time. Anyways, y'all get what I'm trying to say. And Megan and I met through students of mine from when I, as a mentor and trainer at Certified Life Coach Institute. Megan is a dear friend of the coaches that I have been connecting with lately. And you will be, I think Rachel will be on this live in the next one. So anyways, I just love that I'm meeting people through different avenues, but let's dive in. So again, for those watching, the topic is rest is radical success, redefining productivity through joy and rest. In other words, you get to define it yourself. So we're going to explore two questions. First of all, I want to let everybody know, please feel free to type your questions or comments in the chat or whatever on whatever channel you may be watching. We may not be able to respond right now, but I know those of you that watch now or the replay will come back to you. We'll look for your comments and we will reply at some point. So the first question, and we'll go in a different order. Maybe I'll call on y'all because you're so kind and trying to let somebody else go first. The first question for y'all to consider is, how can leaders, and you get 1 minute, how can leaders shift workplace culture to recognize that rest, joy, and play are essential components of productivity, not distractions from it? All right, so I'm going to take us backwards. I'm going to change the schematic of the screen. And oh, it just happened to work out. Megan, come on in.
All right. So I love this question because I think when I first read it, it makes me think that I need to be doing something externally. But when I read it again, it kind of forces me to like reflect back on myself. And I think as leaders, the very first step for us is to create the conditions to make it safe for us to do these things for ourselves first. As leaders, we always want to lead ourselves first, right? And so, how do you create safety for yourself to find more joy, to create space for play, et cetera, et cetera? And one of the things that I find with rest in particular, I think that we miss is that it's not about discipline. It's not about forcing yourself to sit on the couch or do something that you've been told is rest. Rest is about going back to what Misha said earlier about, finding your own path, what feels like rest for you. But in a lot of cases, it does not feel safe to our nervous systems to rest, right? People say, I suck at meditating, right? And when we're coming from fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, of course, we can't sit down and meditate, but that's where most of us are operating from in our business or at work almost all of the time. So we're in survival mode and then we try to rest and it feels impossible. So when it feels inaccessible, we have to reframe. And that starts with creating nervous system safety for ourselves.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to wait till everybody has said their piece, and then I will come in and add a few things. But thank you for participating in that, Megan. Okay, so OJ, you're still stuck in the middle, so I'm gonna get your thing up here, and I'm gonna highlight you, and then make us here. Nope, it didn't work. All right, go that way. All right, now you're there.
All right. Go back to Megan. No, hey, you know what? So, like Megan, this question caused me to reflect, and I was thinking about years ago when I was early in my leadership journey. I was responsible for this particular team, high performing team with a high cost, no fail type mission. And this is going to sound like a confession, okay? So just so you know, be prepared. Right? And so I had the team, and you know what? And I had fallen into a trap and thinking that the more that we worked, the busier that we were, the better we were. And if we weren't super busy, we were ineffective. And that was a trap and recipe for potential burnout, right? And that's a trap that leaders fall into. They measure productivity by activity, right? And instead of impact. And so when teams slow down, when you're accustomed to going, 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 when teams slow down, the leader tends to panic. And that's what I did. And that was a mistake because you think that your team is slacking, but you leaders need to understand that constant output isn't sustainable and can lead to burnout. And burnout isn't a flex, it's actually evidence of poor leadership. And so leaders can shift that culture by reframing rest as performance fuel and not wasted time. Okay, and so again, that was my mistake. And it starts with modeling it yourself. You know, a leader has to model the behavior that they want to achieve themselves, and so you have to take your breaks. You have to log off without guilt. You have to encourage the use of PTO, And so that's what more leaders need to do. It's about rewiring what we reward also. If we start recognizing that creativity that comes after recovery, and that's when innovation really takes off. And so that's it for me. That was a great question. That allowed me to reflect and think about some great times. Thank you.
Good stuff. Thanks for bringing the story in. Yeah. All right. We're going to try to get Marjorie up here. You know what it does is it takes whoever was there last and then waits for me to switch it up. So everybody be patient for a moment. We're going to bring OJ back into the center and then slide Marjorie in there. And boom, there we've got it. Go, Marjorie, go. And just for those who are this panelists, we have a private chat. And so I took the question and I put it in the chat down below on the left-hand side if you need to reference it. Okay, go, Marjorie, go.
Okay. I don't have a leadership team. I work remote, but I do have contractors, so I'm not sure I can address specifically that question. What occurred to me while I was listening to Megan and OJ was my own. I feel like curiosity is where I find the places to make rest. Was kind of smiling thinking about today. I was out on my steps there watching the grass grow because we just had a new septic system and our yard was a mess. And so we're anxiously watching those little seeds grow. And I've been told that I could be entertained by watching paint dry. So for me, watching grass grow is a lot. So eating my apple, looking to see for hints of growth, I think those are all parts of just being curious. And I think allowing ourselves to be curious about whatever is around us is a really solid strategy for finding rest, figuring out ways to rest that work for us.
Thank you, Marjorie. So I'm going to start there with my reflections back and just put up this question again for people who want to see it. So you don't have to have a team to have expertise and that can support people. And I would say curiosity is one of those really big things that teams, individuals, families, teachers, medical practitioners, law enforcement lack. Curiosity can save the day. So I think that was like a mic drop around, I don't have a team, so I don't know if I can really speak into that, but the reality is you did and you can. And I'm grateful for that because curiosity truly is a component that is critical. And then I also heard, now I'm going to get confused as to who I heard it from. I think it was OJ, confusing productivity as activity. There is so much that actually, and then we can define active. What does active and activity mean? You might not see me hustling and wrestling around this office, whatever, but I am active. I am getting innovative and creative, and I'm going here and I'm going there, here and in here. So, again, we have a lot of assumptions in our culture of what does something mean to you must mean it to me and vice versa. And the reality is, going back to that curiosity, we need to explore a little bit more. And there was now something that Megan said, and now, of course, I can't remember it. Darn it. Megan, give us a quick summary of what you said. I know I put her on the spot. There was a phrase you used. It wasn't fuck the hustle, but it was something else after that.
It was probably about starting with safety, nervous system.
Or rest
Yes.
rest is not lazy.
Rest
Maybe
is not lazy. I also did
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, there was something else. Darn it. I'm going to get better at taking notes. I told you I'll take notes so you could comment on each other, and I didn't do it. All right. Well, actually, I did. I started writing in the private chat, but then when I lower the private chat, it disappears because I wasn't going to send it as a private chat. Anyways, great topic, great question. So we just heard from Megan and OJ and Marjorie, and the question again, how leaders can shift workplace culture to recognize that rest, joy, and play are essential components of productivity. And just to kind of tie a bow on that one, these are terms that each and every person has to define for themselves. What is rest for you? What is joy and where does it come from for you? What is play and what does that mean for you? Sometimes it could be just laughing with a video of a baby whose parent is tearing paper, or some people like the cats who jump when they see this cucumber because they're scared or whatever. So joy, laugh, play, rest, all that needs to be defined for yourself. So if you are a leader in a workplace, consider what you are assuming these things mean, because it might mean something else for one of your contributors, one of your colleagues. And having those kinds of conversations, just really want to encourage that. Okay, let's go to question number 2. Can you share practical, well, I gave a couple, but anyways, I know all of y'all have something. Can you share practical strategies or examples where incorporating unconventional rest practices like play or joy breaks has improved team performance or engagement? Again, you don't have to be an expert on teams. Maybe you've done this in community, maybe you with your own family, but strategies that are unconventional that can support our listeners. So why don't we start with OJ? You've been the middleman. Let's bring you in for the actual starting here. Pull you in, and
Okay.
thank you for your patience. There you go.
All right. Yeah, strategy. So mine come from the workplace. I have an example from a client, and she's brilliant. She came up with what she calls a virtual happy hour for her team, and so she has remote teams, and they come on, they tell jokes, and they have a beverage or what have you online, and it really has turned out great for them. They usually have a playlist. Um, she has really enjoyed it. And here's what happened. Here's what happened. Engagement went up, fatigue went down, um, and she noticed that the best ideas among the team showed up after those breaks. And so she is a big fan of what she's come up with the virtual happy hours. And so my thing is this: the practices don't have to be big or complicated. It could be a Friday ritual where everyone shares a small win or a gratitude moment. Or if you, again, are your manager leader, how about taking an intentional pause before you make major decisions with your team? A step away, breathe, then come back with a clear head. Those sorts of things, they may sound small, but the impact is huge. And I'll say this, and I'll close it out. I think rest, play, and joy, they aren't luxuries. They're accelerators of performance. So the teams that laugh together last longer and lead stronger, if you ask me.
Yes, they're fuel.
Hmm.
Yes, joy, rest, and play are fuel, not fluff. They've been my lifeline. I talk about this all the time. Joy saves my life. I've struggled from depression. I've struggled with my disability. I struggle with worldly things, the weight on my shoulders as an empath, and joy and rest and play save my life every day. So thank you for that, OJ. All right, I'll bring Megan in. Let me see if I can. OJ, you're going to be up here again. Just smile for the camera. All right,
Love
Megan, come on in.
love it. Well, OJ was speaking to simplicity, and years ago when I was consulting, one of my boss and my mentor uh, insisted on something that I will never forget. I've taken this with me everywhere I go. He insisted that we build into our billable hours as consultants something that he called staring out the window time. And I remember being like, dude, we can't charge people for that. And he was like, no, you don't put it as a line item, but you build it in when you're thinking about how long it's going to take you to do what you need to do. You need a 15 to 20% buffer. And I know that sounds like a lot, but it's very important. And he insisted on it everywhere we went. And the job where that came into play for me was with this winery that had just been purchased by an international company. And the new leadership team had been transplanted from another country into this, family run US winery. And the culture clash was so intense. And the local team, they were invested deeply in their relationships with the local communities and the land. They were farmers. And the transplanted team were MBAs from this multinational company. And, they liked speed and structure and spreadsheets and top-down directives, and everybody was moving nonstop. But when we'd literally carve out time to do nothing and stare out the window, to stand outside, to look over the vineyards, we were able to come up with real insights that helped us sort of solve this people clash, right? So I'll wrap this up by saying what looks like staring out the window, right? Spacing out, doing nothing can actually be the most strategic thing that a leader or your team can do, because the clarity and the creativity don't happen at 200 miles an hour, right? The nervous system has to have room to breathe, and then everything opens up, and it's not coming from here, it's coming from here and here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes back to what OJ said earlier around the pause, right? I
Mhm.
mean, there is so much power in the pause. And so whether you want to call it time to stare out the window, or you want to call it pause, or you want to call it breathe, or you want to call it a reset, that has to be included in your hours. I mean, you can't work 8 to 5 without 10 minutes in lunch times, without a breath. So why don't we normally say that that should be part of it? I mean, it's got to be included. So yeah, thank you for bringing that in. Wonderful. All right, so I wish I could do this a different way, but I can't. So let's go back here and bring Marjorie in. Whoops, no, not that way. Hold on a second. There's Marjorie. All right, come on in, Marjorie.
All right. Uh, I'm not sure if this fits into what you were asking. And when I was listening to Megan and OJ, it occurred to me, it just brought to mind, I have a group of people that we meet weekly for writing accountability. And what we do is we spend the first 15 minutes just going around and saying, what do you think you're going to work on today? And we're all authors. We're all thinking about writing. And people just say, here's what I think I'm going to do. And just by having that time to speak with other people that we see consistently, give some accountability, and then spend between 30 and 40 minutes trying to do what we do. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we fail. And then we come back and say, how'd you do? And it's again not a stressful, sometimes a number of us said, didn't go so well. And other times people say, wow, that really went well. Thank you so much. It's a setting that time aside, whether you get something productive done or not, and having the interaction with other people who care, who listen, who really want to know. And that's something I do several times a week. There are people from around the world that meet, all one virtual space. And we've formed friendships, have accountability, and a lot has gotten done, surprising, for those little times where it's not forced, it's not activity per se, it's what are you going to do? Okay, let's see if you do it.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, actually. It's funny you say, I don't know how that's going to fit in if it does, but the practical strategies is what we're asking for. Practical strategies are examples, right? And so sometimes a team will say, okay, ready, get so ready, 1, 2, 3, go, instead of how about you just stay put for a moment? 1, 2, 3, brainstorm. 1, 2, 3, share. What are your next steps? Because I will tell you, 9 times out of 10, accountability is usually the problem with a project getting done, right? There's procrastination. People don't even know what their role is, and so getting that distinction, that clarity around what is supposed to happen, that actually is unconventional rest. Taking that pause, identifying it, right? And you could do a little humor, right? We went into a store the other day to help my aunt, and there was what looked like a spilled coffee cup on the desk. And actually, it was a fake spilled coffee cup on the desk. Just a little something like that made us all laugh. So unconventional, think about what, and I want to caution people who are listening though, we're going to wrap this up, that play and or joy, you want to make sure it's not at somebody else's expense, right? The jokes, the criticism, the making fun of, that is actually a way to completely get rid of belonging and kind of put a kibosh on inclusion. So when we talk about, resilient and joyful leaders, how can you be a compassionate, resilient, joyful leader that makes a space that feels good to everyone? And so when you're incorporating joy, play, and rest, it's incorporated in ways that's healthy for you and for your teams. All right, so we're at time, which means we got to go around the squares and basically would love for you all. I'm just going to put this up here so people know. October 20th is the next LinkedIn Live. My guests are Crystal Whitaker, Jamie Roderick, and Rachel Michelle. And the topic is belonging from within, the role of healthy boundaries in thriving workplaces. So I'd like to ask each of you to share a golden nugget you have received from somebody here, and how can people reach you, and why would they? So I'm only giving you 30 seconds for this one. So we will start with, who hasn't gone first yet? Marjorie? Megan? Okay. I don't know. Let's go with Marjorie. Marjorie, come on in. Tell people how they can reach you, why they would do so, and a golden nugget you received from today.
Oh, thank you. MarjorieTurner.com is how people can reach me. I love working with authors who want to write their book and need the support. So I loved when OJ talked about busy is a trap, because I think we as a society think that if we're busy, we're important. And those of us who can't be busy because of our own situation feel like we must not be as important. And I really appreciated him bringing that up.
Wonderful. Thank you, Marjorie. Awesome. All right. Well, we're just going to come back to, well, actually, no, we'll go to Megan. Megan, you come on in.
Okay. So my name is Megan Arneson. My website is fuckthehustle.co. I have a community for women, high achieving leaders, where we create the safety to rest, to vent, to share all the things that it doesn't feel safe to share elsewhere. And we also do monthly live practices to help regulate your nervous system so that you can show up as the leader that you want to be. My favorite nugget was when OJ said, burnout isn't a flex, it's an indicator of poor leadership. Ouch. And so true. Burnout is at an all-time high and psychological safety is at an all-time low. And, going back to sort of a theme that I feel like everybody's touched on a little bit here today, we have to lead ourselves first through this. And
Yes.
creating the space to rest, creating the safety to rest is the place to start. And then modeling that for our teams is the next place we need to go.
All right. Wow. So OJ, you got 2 nuggets that people took away from you. Now it's your turn. Where'd your nuggets come from?
No problem. I got the nugget. Well, the team has the nuggets. I wrote them down. Uh, I have one of each, and I'll tell you. Well, I have more, but I'll just say one of each. When Marjorie, I think the first question, it resonated with me when she talked about, let's see, whether we need the rest or not. And that can sound kind of simple, but I'll tell you, it calls for self-analyzation. You need to take inventory and realize, hey, you know what? Even the times in which I think that I am okay and I am rested, or I have enough energy to go out and execute. No, let me look within and understand, you know what? I probably do need to take a rest, take a break in order to be my best self to lead the team, right? To whomever. And so that's money. That in my mind, that's better than a nugget. You can't take a nugget to the mall. You can take money to the mall. That's money. And back to Megan, awesome. Megan made me think when she talked about the staring at the out the window time. That's brilliant because it causes you to Build in your rest into your day, your schedule, your what have you, your SOP. And so leaders need to do that. You need to actually build it in. I'm from a culture where we execute plans like flawless, right? And so if you want something done properly, something that's needed, put it into a plan. Put it into a plan. Build it into your day. And so that is big. And yeah, again, that's big. I'm glad I was here. This was awesome. Thank you for having me, Misha. This has been great.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. So, just a reminder that joy and rest are and have been claimed as acts of resistance, but it doesn't have to be a volatile resistance. It's really about what everybody is really honed in on is taking care of yourself so you can better be of service to others, so you can show up as the best version of yourself, right? So, as we talk about rest as radical resistance or rest as radical success, right? Take the time to sit and think about, what does this mean to me? And how could what I'm doing now change for the better if I were to take better care of myself? If I were to really entertain what helps me rest, what helps me feel joyful, how can I play, make time for play? It doesn't have to take a long time. A breath can be 8 seconds. Breathe in through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Already you're activating the parasympathetic system, which calms your nervous system. Joy, it could be looking at a butterfly that goes hovering through past your window. Play, it could be you decide to do a quick little hopscotch in your hallway, right? But you decide that. And that's when you will have success, is when you allow these things to take place in your life as opposed to ignore them, deny them, and resist against them. So thank you, everyone. I'm Misha Saffron, looking forward to connecting with anyone who is looking to develop as a stronger, more resilient, compassionate, joyful leader. And I also run a monthly program with Joy. It's a Joy group cohort, and I'm super excited to be supporting leaders to really redefine how to keep going while also putting the pause button, push the pause button. It's okay. All right. We'll say goodbye to everybody, and a reminder to see everybody next week. In 2 weeks, October 20th. And thank you for joining us. We'll say goodbye.